Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments lie, God does not lie. When Lincoln got in office, the government changed. Prior to the passing of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, the government defined Africans as slaves and property, people with no rights to be respected by any rights anywhere. The Supreme Court of the government, same court, granddaddy court of the one that stole the 2000 election, Supreme Court said in its Dred Scott decision in the 1850s, no African anywhere in this country has any rights that any white person has to respect at any place, anytime. That was the government's official position, backed up by the Supreme Court, that's the judiciary, backed up by the executive branch, that's the president, backed up by the legislative branch, and enforced by the military of the government. But I stopped by to tell you tonight that governments change. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments change, God does not change. Prior to Harry Truman's government, the military in this country was segregated, but governments changed. Prior to the civil rights and equal accommodations laws of the government in this country, there was back segregation by the country, legal discrimination by the government, prohibited blacks from voting by the government. You had to eat in separate places by the government. You had to sit in different places from white folks because the government said so, and you had to be buried in a separate cemetery. It was apartheid American style from the cradle to the grave, all because the government backed it up. But guess what? Governments changed. Under Bill Clinton, we got a messed up welfare to work bill, but under Clinton, blacks had an intelligent friend in the Oval Office. Oh, the governments changed. Where governments change, God does not change. The election was stolen. We went from an intelligent friend to a dumb Dixiecrat, a rich Republican who has never held a job in his life, is against affirmative action, against education, I guess he is, against health care, against benefits for his own military, and gives tax breaks to the wealthiest contributors to his campaign. Governments change, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. But I'm fitting to help you again. Turn back and say, he's fitting to help us again. Oh, but governments change. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Malachi 3:6. For I am the Lord, and I change not. That's the King James Version. The New Revised says, for I, the Lord, do not change. In other words, where governments change, God does not change. God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. That's what his name, I am, means, you know. He does not change. There is no shadow of turning in God. One songwriter puts it this way, as thou hast been, thou forever will be. Thou changest not. Thy compassions, they fail not. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. God does not change. God was against slavery on yesterday, and God, who does not change, is still against slavery today. God was a God of love yesterday, and God, who does not change, is still a God of love today. God was a God of justice on yesterday, and God, who does not change, is still a God of justice today. Turn to your neighbor and say, God does not change. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments change, God does not change.
Pilate spoke as the regional representative of an opulent government. Jesus spoke as the only begotten Son of God who is omnipotent. They lived in two different worlds. Pilate commanded the Roman legions. Jesus could have called 10,000 angels. They lived, I'm telling you, in two different worlds. It's hard to communicate to a non-believer who does not live in or know your world. finna help you, finna help you. Tell your neighbor, he's finna help us. There are politicians right now who are making decisions about your life right now, making decisions about your future right now, making decisions about your family and your children. And the real tragedy is they live in a different world from your world altogether. There are people in power who have opinions about you based on their privilege of skin color. I'm in the text. Pilate was European. Jesus was not European. They live in a world shaped by European standards of beauty, Moynihan studies, and bell curves. They live in a different world than your world altogether. They are ignorant and arrogant, and these graduates of Harvard and Yale are setting policies for you based on the stupidity of David Hume, Immanuel Kant, Voltaire, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, Thomas Jefferson, a pedophile, Theodore Roosevelt, and the racist Supreme Court, and the Encyclopedia Britannica. The ignorance and arrogance of white supremacy have the shapers and movers of world policy living in a different world, the world you live in altogether. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you're going to be. The military mindset of a Pontius Pilate was in a different world altogether from the mindset of him who was wounded for our transgressions and bruised for our iniquities. They could not communicate because they were speaking two different languages, say two different languages, and they could not communicate because they lived in two different worlds, say two different worlds. Believers, beware. You may find yourself in a conversation with somebody who lives in a different world than your world altogether.
The Roman government failed, and the United States of America government, when it came to treating her citizens of Indian descent fairly, she failed. She put them on reservations. When it came to treating her citizens of Japanese descent fairly, she failed. She put them in internment prison camps. When it came to treating the citizens of African descent fairly, America failed. She put them in chains. The government put them on slave quarters, put them on auction blocks, put them in cotton fields, put them in inferior schools, put them in substandard housing, put them in scientific experiments, put them in the lowest paying jobs, put them outside the equal protection of the law, kept them out of their racist bastions of higher education, and locked them into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a three-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating our citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme. Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments change,